Right now, there's a really heavy focus on the concept of next-gen systems, things like the PS5 and Xbox Series X, for a very good reason. There's a lot happening in the news for both those systems right now. But something else that Microsoft is focused on that I don't want to have completely fall on the wayside is Project xCloud. Their focus on cloud-based gaming, and more importantly, the idea of bringing the Xbox experience to small, portable handhelds. Rather than invest in making some kind of side system, like some kind of direct competitor to Nintendo Switch, instead, Microsoft focuses on just bringing their games to mobile devices that people already own. Xbox game streaming has been in beta for quite some time now on both Android and iOS, and while it is still certainly rough around the edges, especially for some specific games, the overall experience has been getting smoother and smoother, giving you the ability to play games on the go that really right now you would never imagine you could. And a really important aspect for how this experience feels like you're using a proper handheld and not just necessarily a mobile phone is what controls you're using to actually play it. And one of the ways I really heavily touched on this in the past was with Razer's release of the Junglecats, which functionally act a lot like Joy-Cons. And they now have a new release that offers an alternative method of playing with the Razer Kishi. Obviously, this is just the controls. I mean, it expands open to actually put a phone in there. But the point is that this does a lot of things interestingly different from the Junglecat, some that are better, some that are worse, and I really want to talk about how both of these options really address turning your phone into something that feels like a proper handheld and not necessarily like you're just playing games on your phone. Let's start off by addressing some of the really obvious differences between this and the Junglecat. The Junglecats are more inspired by the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, where they are wireless controllers that go to the sides of your phone, but you can use them also wirelessly if you prefer. They have that shape and design, and they are both independently wireless controllers that you have to charge up. The Kishi, on the other hand, is a more traditional Game Vice style controller for phones. In fact, this is actually partnered with the Game Vice. You can see the name on the back there. But instead of relying on having an internal battery and being wireless, it just plugs directly into your phone and relies on that as a power source. It also provides a handy little USB-C pass-through. Why can't I say this right now? Oh, I feel like Steve's gonna keep one of those in there. It also provides a handy little USB-C pass-through.
USB-C pass-through.
Why can't I say this? It also has a handy little USB-C pass-through, so you can charge and play at the same time if you're worried about the drain it's going to have on your phone. Yeah! Now that's really the main surface level difference to compare between these two controllers, is the focus on the Junglecats being more like Joy-Cons, where they are independent wireless controllers, whereas the Kishi is just dedicated to being attached to your phone, when honestly, let's be realistic, that is the main #1 use case for these controllers. It is really cool the Junglecats can be used wirelessly, and there are other things about those controllers that I do actually like more than the Kishi, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But as far as just sort of the basic needs of these control styles, the main focus is allowing you to use your phone as a dedicated handheld, and the Kishi is going to do that at a lower price point. Obviously, there are a lot more differences going on aside from just that main difference in terms of features. For instance, the Kishi is a noticeably larger set of controllers. The Junglecats are very small and refined, mainly because they match up with the size of a lot of phones, whereas the Kishi is designed to actually kind of wrap around and fill up the design, so they are larger grips, which, depending on your hand size, can be a very large benefit. And this also comes with the added bonus of larger sticks, larger button sizes, so on and so forth. As a direct result of this, I did find that when I was going back and forth between the Junglecats and the Kishi was the more comfortable of the two controllers, because they were just larger, had more actual grip shaping, and while they are bulkier and make it a little harder to transport, it did make for a longer lasting gaming experience. Another really important difference that needs to be highlighted is compatibility and support. While the Junglecats are a really cool looking style controller, there is a very limited list of phones they work with because you have to get a matching case that'll hold the Junglecats on the sides. You can use them with more Android phones, but you have to be using them in a freestyle kind of wireless design rather than having them on the sides of the phone, which again is kind of the main way you really want to enjoy this. On the other hand, with the Kishi, there's a lot more Android phones out there that are easy to use with it because you don't have to have any kind of specialized case or different design to fit them. As long as they are small enough to go inside the main fitting area of the controller, they are fine. There is a full list of different ones that are compatible. Funny enough, the actual Razer phone to itself is not one of the ones that will fit normally, but they do have a little adjustment that you can get to place inside of it that'll make sure it fits just right. Now you'll notice I'm mostly talking about how these two compare in terms of Android phones, but an important thing is that the Kishi also does come in an iOS model. It is not available yet, it will be made available later this summer, but if you have an iPhone and you're interested in a controller style like this, well, this is going to be an option you can use. The Junglecat is not. Now, if you do happen to own one of the Android phones that supports both the Kishi and the Junglecats, I really want to emphasize that while I do think the Kishi was a more comfortable controller for long periods of time, I actually just really think the Junglecats are really cool. Yes, they're a little less comfortable because of their smaller size, but honestly, I think a lot of the buttons and snappiness on it just feel a lot better. And as far as just the look of a phone with these controllers on each side, again, there's a very specific list and you have to use a case with it, but it just looks like a real handheld. Whereas with the Kishi, obviously this is a phone that is just tucked inside of its body. Now that's how I feel about how the Kishi compares to the Junglecat, but there's a third option I want to address really quick because it is one of the methods that's been shown off a little more often, and I want to talk about why I actually really do prefer this style of control over it, and that's using a traditional Xbox One style controller with a phone clip. Now the benefits of that style are obvious. You are using an actual Xbox One controller to play Xbox games, and there's a familiarity with that that is really nice. And at the end of the day, no matter how ergonomic you can make controller attachments like this, a regular controller is just going to be designed to be a lot more comfortable. However, in the time that I have played both in this style and using a phone with a clip, I have to say that there is a certain just feeling of rightness that comes from using controllers on either side of the screen as opposed to a controller that is hidden behind the phone. I'll admit that I do probably have a bit of a bias in terms of these control styles because I very much love portable systems. I grew up and played on all the different Game Boy systems, the DS line of systems, and obviously I spend a lot of time on the Switch nowadays, and so I really like the concept of having a screen between the two controllers because I can survey all of it at once, and it just feels like the proper handheld experience. But with the focus in mind of actually turning your phone into something that feels like a true dedicated gaming handheld and not just necessarily a phone that's streaming games, this gives you that feeling way more, and is honestly definitely my preferred method of playing. Honestly, I'm just really excited that there's more options like this popping up because I am so excited for the future when stuff like xCloud and even other cloud streaming services are working a lot better, because the idea of having a proper console experience on the go in handheld, and it's not even reliant on necessarily the power of the phone you're using, it's just the internet connection you're using, having an actual proper portable setup like this sounds amazing to me. And while there are multiple companies out there experimenting with the idea of cloud streaming, like Stadia for instance, I gotta be honest, xCloud is definitely the one that has me the most excited because it leverages a system that I'm already actively playing on and have a library for. The idea that I can play a game right now on Xbox One or in the future with Xbox Series X, and then continue to play that game in handheld mode when I want to, either by playing it through xCloud or by actually directly streaming to my system, assuming that I have a good enough internet connection set up, is a really appealing concept. Especially because it's this very concept that has made the Nintendo Switch the success that it is. Yes, it's also backed up by a very good library of games, but part of the whole reason why the Switch took off when it first did was because this concept of being able to play both in handheld mode or hooked up to a TV is something that's really appealing to a lot of people. It allows you to play how you want, where you want. Cloud streaming as it is right now obviously doesn't achieve that exact same experience because in the Switch's case, it is the same exact console playing whether you're on a TV or in a handheld, and in the case of cloud streaming, well, you're relying on streaming. But as technology progresses and you're able to get a more fluid experience, this is going to be one of the easiest ways to constantly swap between where you're playing a game and how, whether that's on your TV with a system hooked up to it, and then immediately getting up, pulling out your phone, and being able to play right then and there. Okay, I got a little off track, but the point I'm making here is that clearly this is the direction that a lot more portable gaming is going to be exploring in the near future, and more controller options like this popping up and adding more competition and more design styles, I think is going to bring us a great array of different ways to turn phones into portable gaming machines, and that is something I am very excited for. Because I gotta be honest, there's always been that kind of long-term argument of will mobile games kill off traditional video game portables, and for a little while, it was getting kind of dicey and looking that way. The Switch changed that heavily, and I think it's now causing us to embrace this kind of style where, look, phones are very convenient, people already own them, but you still need a traditional control style to really get the most out of a lot of different game designs. And so by combining the two, by taking a phone you already know and attachments like this, that's a version of the mobile taking over portable gaming that I am completely okay with.